if they don't win it, you cannot bring back the same team. You know what I mean?
Well, you'll have financial constraints, so that'll naturally be the title of the jam. And Debo, just real quick here, Steiny, I don't think he's done himself any favors if we're looking down the road, and we're not. It's about Operation LA, but this injury don't help him.
Help who?
Debo, if they had to pick between, you know what I'm saying? If you already signed Aiyuk and we were talking about still up in the air, they could trade one of the two or whatnot. And Debo's in his greatest shape of his career, and all of a sudden you lose Debo. Like, it has a last dance feel to this current roster. I don't think we can hide from that now.
I know. And I'm completely with you. And if for whatever reason this season gets derailed by injury and this group doesn't feel like it had a great chance this year because of the injury, unfortunately, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. If you don't get it done this year, how can you justify essentially trying to bring everybody back that you can if you haven't been able to get it done in 5 years? If you don't do it this year, you got to move on from some people, don't you?
Well, I mean, and it starts with what we talked about, how much you're going to give a certain quarterback. And, things have changed relatively fast to where you are right, Steiny. It is crazy, and in a twisted way, because nobody wants to see this, it's become more exciting to watch this Niner team function without two of the studs. And one of the studs may never come back this year. Like that is on the bingo card for me. And you didn't ask, I'm just bringing that up in regard to McCaffrey. If you really, really, really want to slow play this and not have him tear anything. So right now, I think we're getting the answers to those questions. And what we saw against Minnesota that wasn't it. That ain't going to get you to the NFC Championship game. So now you got to go back to the lab. And I said Kyle was the most. I'm cussing my own self out. Steiny, the players make plays. You got to go out there. Kyle had nothing to do with the 97-yard pass where, guys get peeking in the backfield, getting caught looking. And it is what it is. Brown was peeking and he got caught. So that wasn't Kyle. Well, Kyle wasn't throwing the ball high or letting the ball slip out his hand. But he did call those 3 run plays in the red zone when you got beast mode back there.
Well, this is what Brian Baldinger said about that play, the bomb to Jefferson.
I don't know what they're thinking. Diamador Lenore's on the other side of the field guarding grass. Like there's nothing over there. There's no work. You got Naylor and Jefferson over here in a stack. Sometimes you can, I don't know why you would drop down your backup safety in that situation. Him and Tago, the safeties in the play, and Odom is down there. If you're going to play that stack, at least put Travarius on Justin right there and let Ward take Naylor. At least put your best corner on the best receiver in that situation. And so not only did they get caught with their second corner on the other side of the field, but they got caught with, their third safety on Jefferson like that. And that's, Sam saw that all the way. I think he saw it pre-snap, actually. And the biggest play that I've seen the 49ers give up since Shanahan has been there, happened on the play.
Wow, and
what I think? Maybe it was some on the coaching staff.
Well, that would be Sorensen because that side of the ball is his unit. But what about what Ward said I gave him a little flack for yesterday about, maybe there was some validity to that. You should have had me on him. I should have been shadowing JJ.
Man, that was part of it. Here's the one, maybe there was something to it. This is Richard Sherman, future Hall of Famer.
They allowed him to throw a 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. Unacceptable, no matter what part of the game you're in, no matter what situation, no matter if it's backed up, whatever the situation is. You got 2 safeties guarding Justin Jefferson. He split the defense. You should never put those guys in that situation. He should be doubled at all times. He's the best player on their football team. He's not a guy that you should let loose or not have an eye on or say, oh, they're going to run the ball. Let them run the ball. Let them run the ball in that situation. Too deep. We stopped Justin Jefferson. They ran a play like that in week 1, had some success. It was a post corner that Justin Jefferson had some success. This week it was a corner post, and he was able to get behind the defense. Sam Darnold threw a beautiful football for the 97-yard touchdown.
That was Richard Sherman. So Richard Sherman and Brian Baldinger both questioning the coverage there.
Yeah. And when you have that result, I think it's fair game, right? I'll tell you what, his predecessor, Robert Saleh, doesn't have that on his ledger. D'Amico Ryans doesn't have that on his ledger. And damn sure Mr. Wilkes, if you want to call him a scapegoat, doesn't have that on his ledger, Steiny. So that is not good for Sorensen. And again, his unit turned in a great game Monday night against the Jets. And I was in here saying how dominant they look. But, I mean, all we do with our job is react to new information. And Minnesota, offensively for the Niners and defensively and coaching, was nothing to write home about at all, and that's why they lost.
So you said something very interesting a minute or two ago about that without Debo and McCaffrey, it's almost become, more exciting to watch this offense and to see what they can do. So, and listen, you're not a 49er fan per se,
right.
But
we cover the team.
But I completely understand what you're saying. But I want to ask 49er fans how they view this next 2 or 3 weeks. And I get it. I get you're not excited about playing without those two guys. But I want to know how many fans are, at least like me, when I look at this, knowing that it's early in the season, is there any way this could be a good thing in the long term for the San Francisco 49ers, that for the next 2 weeks, they've got to figure out a way to win games without two of their big weapons? I truly believe that this could be a benefit because it's some early season adversity, and it's addressing the one question about Brock Purdy that is still out there about what happens if he doesn't have a loaded team around him. And you didn't want it to work out this way. I understand that. But this could also be a 2 to 3 week period, Goo, where Brock Purdy establishes himself on a level that he hasn't established himself, because if he gets it done with this group without those two key components offensively, then what do detractors have to say? If Brock Purdy looks good the next 2 or 3 weeks, how could he possibly have detractors? So I'm choosing to look at this as a positive.
We've already crossed this bridge.
No, we haven't.
And he didn't look great. They lost 3 games in a row. He didn't look great against Cincinnati when Burrow came in here and they put on a clinic. It wasn't all, but he threw an interception.
Right,
he lost to Cleveland and Minnesota.
But he's got another shot now. It's a year later.
But I guess.
And he's missing 2 of his weapons.
Yeah.
So you're damn right. I think this is important to see how he plays.
It depends on who you are. And the reason I say that is I look at our 49er fans we have here, guys in the morning, diehards, Willard and Dibbs. Steiny, what is your goal? I heard Bonte this morning. I wasn't mad at him. He was in straight survival mode. If we win 3-0, 6-3, he'll take it. And that was a Niner fan to me saying it's about the dubs. To hell with the contract and what we're going to pay Brock Purdy. But Steiny, if I'm upstairs or my last name is York, maybe I am looking at, okay, the team success and the individual play.
You have to.
Okay, right.
You have to.
And I get that. That's the world we live in. But the 3-game losing streak, my point is, Steiny, didn't stop Brock from taking the team to the Super Bowl. It was, a bump in the road, and he got back on his bike when guys returned, and he got back after it. I just don't like the fact that he looked regular, and there was some Jimmy stuff I saw from the Niner quarterback position on Sunday without McCaffrey, and now there is no Debo. And I'm wondering, Steiny, will that be on display more moving forward?
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Look,
because everything you're saying is legit, man. It's just on how you look at it.
I mean, what Brock Purdy has put in his file in a year and a half has been nothing short of terrific. It's been nothing short of impressive. We all know that. But the next 2 weeks are going to be a different kind of challenge for him. I get he was missing.
Football-wise.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. He's going to quarterback a team this week and next week that isn't as good offensively around him as it has been for essentially a year and a half. So, yes, there's pressure on him to come through. And first and foremost, no, I agree with Bonte. The first thing you got to do is win the game any way you can. But after that, then I do think we get to see Brock Purdy in a new light. And you know what? I, for one, as a 49er fan, would be optimistic, and I'd be looking forward to it because we're going to see more of the type of game that he may, or the type of team that he may have to quarterback a year or two from now, if and when they lose a weapon or two. So I think I think it could be a blessing in disguise. I really could. And the best case scenario is he looks great and you realize, hey, we got a quarterback and we thought we had one before, but now we know. Now we know for sure that we got a guy who can lead our team into the future. But if he doesn't look good, I'm just telling you, the nature of sports, and especially the NFL, we're going to be coming in here the next 2 Mondays saying, now what? Now what? If he doesn't look as good as he's looked in the first year and a half. Well, 888-957-9570. And how much confidence do you have in Brock Purdy? You know, that's another thing. And I'm not calling anybody out, but it's easy to be sold. It's been very easy, I think, to be sold on Brock Purdy. And the next 2 weeks are going to give us a clear indication of who he is. But that's also the nature of the NFL. You got to prove it every single week, and he's got 15 more weeks to prove that he's the quarterback of the future for the 49ers, and I don't think that anything leads me to believe he won't be. But as we were talking about yesterday, Goo, I mean, things change in a hurry in the NFL, and here's the other thing. This guy gets sacked like he got sacked on Sunday.
No doubt.
How's he going to stay upright for the entire season?
That's a legit concern. And that was the one thing I was looking at, like, just, you know, did he get up? Is he okay? And you just hit me with something. Let me just do this, Steiny. You said, could this be a blessing in disguise? Because there's multiple things at play here. It's not just Brock Purdy. Steiny, if somehow McCaffrey were to come back in 3 weeks, I never want to live in a world covering this team, watching here in the Bay, where we don't see Jordan Mason featured along Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying, and the title of the slogan for that would be Save McCaffrey for the playoffs. How can you do that? When you got a beast or an animal or a mutant, as I dub him, in Jordan Mason. But it's going back to Kyle Shanahan, and I compare it to Jonathan Kuminga. When Wiggins went out a couple years ago and Jonathan Kuminga took off, and then when Wiggins came back, Kuminga was an afterthought. And he had that bad playoffs, and he didn't even probably play his best basketball at all against the Lakers. So my point is, I want McCaffrey to come back, and when you say there's a blessing in disguise, that's if Kyle uses a dual threat now. I'm not saying Mason is as good as McCaffrey. I'm not. But Steiny, in this NFL, I feel like you got to have a 2 or 3-headed monster, and that's a luxury. But my goodness, Mason was on this team last year and didn't see the ball. Is it fair to question that? I won't, because that does us no good now. But I'm wondering, since all of us have been introduced to Mason, there's no way when that day does come, McCaffrey comes back, that he's not a part of your running game.
Like, probably not a big part of it.
That is, man.
And the other thing is, listen.
I see that.
I love, you may think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Well, first of all, I would love for McCaffrey to have an 11-game regular season if he's healthy. Perfect.
At the end.
Perfect.
Yeah, well.
Perfect. Now, the one thing that I will maybe argue against a little bit is the idea of, well, let's really rest these guys and save them for the playoffs.
That's not what this is about.
Like, they're 1-1 right now, and they're going to play the next 2 games without 2 of their big boy weapons. it's possible they could get behind the 8 ball these next 2 weeks. That's very possible.
And we've seen that under the Kyle era. Remember 3-5 a couple years ago and went to the NFC Championship game, lost to the Rams.
And if they start 1-3 or 2-3, and then McCaffrey's back, you don't have the luxury of, well, we're going to work him in and we'll still get Mason touches and we can let Debo kind of ease his way back. The number 1 seed is still the way to go to best ensure you make the postseason or to make the Super Bowl.
But not with performances like last Sunday in many.
Exactly. And, you start 1-3 or 2-3. You're probably going to be 2 games behind the team that's the best in the NFC. And the 49ers, their goal is always to be the number 1 seed. And when they are, they have 1 fewer game, and then they have both their games at home. It's huge. Let's go to Tony in San Jose. Hey, Tony, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, gentlemen? Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for taking my call.
Back at you.
I just wanted to go ahead. I'm not too worried at all. I think that it's a hiccup right now.
Right.
Obviously, they had some great intel. They had Sam Darnold, so they had the playbook. And if you look at the defense of Minnesota in crucial situations, they were making a lot of defensive adjustments on the spot, and that's coming from Darnold's insight, right? That's number 1. Number 2, Steiny, you're mentioning that they're taking his big boys. Well, imagine if you took A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley from quarterback in Philly, he'd be pretty run-of-the-mill. So I think we have to consider that. I mean, yes, Brock's back is against the wall. I feel confident that he's going to come through at the end of the day. But, I mean, if you're taking away those 2 key weapons, he's going to first face some adversity. And I just think we have to be patient with that and just weather the storm. But, Steiny, can you address that as far as any team? You take away any 2 key players from any 2 teams, and the quarterback's going to become very mundane, very sedative.
That's a good point. And that's why I do
Look at the Rams.
That's why I do think it is about finding a way to win without these 2 players. And I'm not expecting Brock Purdy to throw 4 touchdowns on Sunday.
And be Dan Marino.
But I'd love to see him play. And after the game, we say, how'd Purdy look? He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Purdy looked pretty good. He's still in control of that offense. He still makes all the right decisions. And the thing I'm going to be looking for is, will the eye test tell you that maybe he's trying to do too much? And then what happens when he has to maybe make riskier plays? Maybe he's capable of doing it. But I'm excited, not because these guys are hurt, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Brock Purdy perform in the next 2 weeks. And I don't have any expectation on him. And if they win the games, that's all you really want to do. And if he's able to win these games, even if it doesn't look, it's probably not going to look great if they win the game, but it'll look good enough. And that's the first thing I want to see.
Because they're in survival mode right now.
Exactly.
And the one part I don't like about any of this, and it being a calf for Debo, and I'm not trying to sell fear, but the bottom line, Steiny, is you're saying 2 weeks and that was a report. We don't know. Just like we didn't know with McCaffrey. Oh, he's just not practicing. He's OG, nothing to see here, and I was the only one worried. And then look what that turned into.
Shanahan.
All right, guys. Injuries from the game, just one new one. Debo ended up having a calf strain. He'll probably miss a couple weeks, and that's it.
Yeah, a couple weeks. That's it.
Gotcha.
Couple weeks.
And they lost with Debo. You know what I mean? Went 400.
Yep, 415. This is going to be very interesting without McCaffrey and Debo. And it's all on Shanahan. A good coach can still win with Purdy, Aiyuk, Kittle, and Jordan Mason.
See, but my dirty little secret is he's got his contract.
Against the Rams.
It is. It just like it is Aiyuk. They're paid. The only person really playing for their Skrilla is Brock Purdy. And you kind of said this months ago.
But there's pressure on Aiyuk now to live up to the contract.
From the fans,
exactly.
No doubt. But from an organization standpoint, if my quarterback does a metamorphosis and we see some things that we hadn't saw, I mean, what do you do with that intel? if McCaffrey doesn't come back and save the day, or he's out the year? You know what I mean? Or do you say, hey, Steiny, sit down.
I don't
Close
understand.
the door. We're going to pay you when you were at your best, when everything was good.
I don't understand how, like, to me, there's a target on Brandon Aiyuk's back right now. You held out.
Yep.
You got your money.
I'm feeling you.
You're a top 5 paid wide receiver. Like, get it done.
No doubt.
He's the one guy who I expect even more than Brock Purdy to come to play the next 2 weeks, because you did get paid and you are supposed to be a number 1 receiver. We're still assessing what Purdy is.